Alright, no foreplay this time because I can tell this won't be quick. I've received a number of permutations of this question. How did I get started? How can you get started? What do we do to find our first projects? And so here's a film to provide those just starting out with actionable advice. This isn't a silver bullet, but if you get one good idea from it, that'll be one more than you had 10 minutes ago. If you're trying to break into creative freelancing, specifically music composition, this is for you. Much of this will apply to other creative disciplines as well, so stick around if you're open to it, and if not, your loss. I've seen the retention metrics. Look, I'm not stupid. You're not here because you care about my journey, you're here for leverage, ideas you can actually use, and I'll give you those, though the only way I know how to do that is through the lens of my own experience. Your path won't look like mine, nor should it, but I found that sometimes all it takes is a single well-placed insight to loosen something that's been jammed in the gears of progress for too long. And so, let's move on. How did I get started? I've worked all sorts of menial jobs in my life. Kitchen work, call centers, janitorial, bartending. Nearly every shit job your parents dangle in front of you as a cautionary tale when you haven't done your homework. Which I didn't, incidentally. Before I went full-time in music, I actually had what some might call a decent job, working in project management at a medical devices company. One day, my manager calls me and says, "You're next in line for a promotion." For many, this is the moment where they exhale and feel a sense of security. Though instead, I had a sudden vivid image doubling down on a career that I already found frustrating and suffocating. So that was the moment I asked myself, what matters enough that I would do it even if it paid less? The advice for you is don't wait to clarify your values. Pursuing fulfillment is usually incongruent with comfort. Those people that you view as successful and secure might have the car and the summer holiday, but that doesn't mean that they're fulfilled. And so, music for me was the only thing that ever captivated. Every spare moment and resource was invested in cultivating that craft. Ironically, perhaps, I had no formal training in music, and although I had played in a few bands, touring had never appealed to me. I had no music industry contacts and absolutely no platform to stand on. And so I knew I wanted to do something with music, but one, I had to choose a direction, and two, I had to get bloody serious. Now, as I say, without formal training, I considered myself unqualified to even entertain the notion that I'd be scoring film. Though before I ever picked up a guitar, video games were my obsession. Video games, music, people actually make a career out of that, surely. But desire alone doesn't pave a career path, and knowing which way is north doesn't mean you can sail the tides. And so came the first real obstacle. I didn't know the first fucking thing about writing music for games. My background in music was strictly rock, metal, post-punk, that sort of thing, guitar-based music, essentially. So revelation, as you'll have gathered, means nothing without redirection. Having a calling is only the beginning. So where do we go from there? Well, you'll need a portfolio that demonstrates what you're capable of, and an audience to show it to. That means networking, which in turn means firing off an absurd amount of emails and messages. If you haven't found collaborators yet, you haven't sent enough messages yet. I, in those stages, sent thousands, and I do mean thousands, of cold emails, tweets, Facebook comments, all manner of things, to the smallest and most obscure collaborators I could find. I aimed low, knowing that that was where people were most likely to respond. The higher I reached, the colder the silence. That's the brutal calculus of the gatekeeper's game. There's no denying that outreach is awful. No one enjoys it, but I really want to stress this. Sitting in your room, writing music, or engaging in whichever creative craft you choose, and occasionally posting that to Instagram, that's not going to cut it. Unless you're engaging in what businesses do, you're not operating as a professional. Again, I've said it before, that's a hobby, not a budding business. No one's scrolling through Instagram looking for a composer, and if they are, they've got no fucking clue what they're doing. You don't break in by being discovered. If you want to do business, start behaving like a business. You need something to market, and you need to market it. And so in the context of my story, as far as a body of work prior to this shift in careers, I had none. Of course, I'd played music for years. I'd written plenty of rock and metal and dabbled in synthwave and post-punk, like I said. I'd done some stuff with orchestral, though nothing that I'd created was near the level of what I knew would be required. And so I had to think strategically how to level up fast. My approach was quite simple and was based on a couple of core philosophies. The first, progress comes from finishing ideas, failing better each time. And the second, if the core message of a piece of music is not discernible within the first 60 seconds, it's likely failing in its purpose. And so, consequently, the daily exercise in those initial stages became to write 60 seconds of music every single day. I'd spot a game on Twitter or Facebook, and I'd compose a minute of music that I felt best captured the artistic vision on display. I was practicing what it would be like to actually work on these projects. Sometimes I'd even send it along afterwards. Progress comes from velocity, failing forward with as much pace as one can manage. Your ability to turn ideas into finished pieces is your best creative asset. Drill it early, drill it hard, and continue to do so as you progress. Now, eventually, I stumbled upon a game that I knew had real potential. I wrote 5 demos that week and I sent them to the team. I volunteered to score the whole thing. And long story short, I ended up composing about an hour of music. So that brings us to a potential controversy. Yes, I said volunteered, because yes, I did it for free. There's a certain orthodoxy online that would call that exploitation. Others would label it grind culture. Oh, that's a dreadful word. I need to brush my teeth again after this. But as is often the case when the internet splits itself into shrill factions, neither side seems especially interested in nuance. People love to moralize about this, either from a position of comfort or from a position of frustration. Frustration that they've not been able to find paid work themselves, or frustration that the industry feels precarious. In many cases, it stems from a genuine concern that unpaid labor undermines the value of the craft. That latter view, I think, comes from the right place, but it fails to acknowledge a few stubborn realities. And so, yes, I worked for free. And it wasn't that I didn't value my time or because I was pressured into doing so. I wasn't betting on exposure. I saw potential and I made a calculated move. I wasn't being strung along with empty promises. I saw an opportunity and I took the initiative. That project had legs, and that was my opportunity to build leverage. The development team never asked me to do it for free, and in fact they were floored that I was the one who suggested it. Although, when you're starting out, you have nothing. I had the discipline, I was developing my chops, but I wasn't even in the door yet. I needed that project at that moment just as much as it needed me. Through my outreach efforts, I'd done other small projects, some of them paid, scraps, though none of those had the potential that this one did. So why not charge for that project? Well, when you're starting out, good faith is rarely gifted. You don't have a reputation or body of work to point to. What you do have is your ability to create momentum where none exists. Sometimes that means investing your time as strategically as any other resource. Working for free is only degrading when it's done passively, when you're not aware of the transaction you're making. But done with intent, with clarity, it's not exploitation, it's infiltration. In the absence of a reputation, your only asset is initiative. Recognizing potential in others and their projects and leveraging that is a vital skill. Furthermore, if you can learn to recognize that potential externally, you'll also learn how to communicate your own value more clearly. So I guess you could say it sharpens your lens both ways. Now, this is vital. I hadn't quit my day job yet, and I don't recommend anyone do so until they're financially secure enough to absorb the implications, which I wasn't. My days began at 3:45 a.m., spending the first 5 hours in the studio before clocking into my remote corporate role. After a full workday, I'd return to composition or outreach until flat-out exhaustion set in. Weekends and holidays were no exception. The ritual was unyielding. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking this: burnout. All right, you're not going to like this, but I'm not here to bullshit you. I'm here to tell you the truth. Burnout is a word for people juggling impossible burdens. If you're young, ambitious, and trying to make progress, what you're feeling in those moments is discomfort, the price of momentum. Push through. This path isn't for everyone, nor is it meant to be. If you want safety and balance, stay at your day job. There is no shame in that. But be honest about what you're choosing. Most of what people call burnout is just resistance in disguise. Your limits are not where you think they are. I had 2 full-time commitments and only one of them was paid, but I treated the unpaid venture with the seriousness of a paid commission, because that is the crucible in which a career is forged. Now, should you decide to take on that free work on that project with promise, I implore you to heed this imperative. Deliver your work with the conviction and craftsmanship of a paid professional, even when the budget is low or when you're not being paid. Because if your output reeks of amateurism, you'll only reinforce the notion that free is the only fee your work deserves. At the end of the day, we're building a reputation here. Our compositions must embody the polish, rigor, and gravitas of a top-dollar job from the very start. This is how you command respect for your art and for yourself. And in the future, that reputation is how you convince clients to invest in you. If someone comes across your work and it's shite, they're not going to do you the good grace of asking, "Did you do that for a crappy rate by any chance?" "Oh, for free?" "Well, then that's understandable." It's not going to happen. Do everything like you really mean it. You owe it to yourself to do the best job you can, let alone the client. So, after delivering my work on that project, the team was thrilled. We were all excited for the release, and then weeks turned into months, and no release. I jotted it down as experience. I made an effort to keep in touch with the team after, though for a while they'd sort of talk around the release, saying it would happen eventually. Not good, so I thought. And then one day the lead developer called me. He's actually a really good friend now. The whole team are my good friends now. Anyway, he called me and he told me that Meta had stepped in. They'd secured the project and expanded the funding. And there it is. The developers could have kept the music I'd already delivered. Instead, they asked for more. The 1-hour score grew to 150 minutes, and they paid me a fee that rivaled my project management salary to finish it. That was the inflection point. Not because I went viral or because I won some obscure award scoring some shite. It was because it proved I could do the work. There's no such thing as a breakout moment, only accumulated proof finally noticed. I know others who toiled for years without that breakthrough. The term grind, to borrow that word again, is often romanticized. If you're putting in 2 hours a week though, that's not building a career, that's a pastime. And that's fine if you admit it, but don't expect career caliber results from hobby level effort. Now, I acknowledge the fact that there are no guarantees in pursuing a creative career, no formula that says X effort equals Y result, but the more you put in, the more opportunities you'll create. It's surface area, volume, exposure. The more work you produce, the more chances something has to catch fire. That's what I banked on, and eventually something did. So, if you're still here, I'm going to fire off some advice in a terse manner to summarize the principles of everything that we've covered. Firstly, start where you are. Your first job won't come from prestige, it will come from proximity. Look around you. Find people making things that you think are cool. Games, shorts, mods for games, pitches. Most of these won't be on job boards. They're on Discord, Reddit, Itch, Twitter, but be present. Facebook groups are a great lead too, by the way. Don't ask for permission. Send the message, make the demo, follow up. No one is coming to hand you a career. You're going to have to pry it open, politely, but relentlessly. Do strategic free work. You're not working for exposure. You're building leverage. Invest in projects that have momentum or good taste. If you believe in it, help make it better. Then own the result. Do it from a position of financial stability. Have a roadmap, have a plan. For example, I want 5 small projects on my portfolio by the end of the year. I will then use those 5 projects to field for bigger ones. That was almost my exact formula. Finish things. Ideas are cheap. Execution is the currency. Ship tracks, reels, demos. Even if they're imperfect, progress lies in completion. Learn to recognize when the elements you're tweaking are simply a matter of taste. Because I assure you, people don't notice the things you think they do. Treat momentum like gold. When something starts to work, even a little bit, double down, build on it. Momentum is rare. Protect and nurture it. This is worth repeating. Recognize potential in others. Most beginners wait for obvious opportunities. Don't do that. Potential, if you can spot it early, in a project, person, or community, is something you can build alongside, and that's how you create your own waves. Reject your sense of entitlement, burnout, imposter syndrome, perfectionism. These are real, but they're also luxuries if you're still at the start of your journey. You don't need balance, you need buy-in. Prove that you're fucking serious. This craft is not for dabblers or hobbyists. Behave like a professional if that's how you want to be treated. Ditch your ego. You're the problem solver who brings sound to story. Stay useful and adaptable. You're here to serve the project, not your delusions of grandeur. If you're chasing fame or recognition, whack on a filter and post lip sync videos on TikTok, because this is not your space. That doesn't mean your work can't carry your voice, because it damn well should, but remember, the art comes from you, but it's not about you. The project comes first. Stay in motion. Careers aren't built in a moment. They're built in a series of decisions made in obscurity. Show up early, stay up late, suck it up, and keep going. Volume, volume, volume. More, more, more. Now, I've saved the most important one for last. Network like a professional. I can hear you sighing already, but let me expand. Go to events, yes, but don't just show up expecting to be the only one offering what you do, especially you composers. My first time at GDC, I met far more composers than people who cared that I was one. If you want to stand out, do your research and connect ahead of time. Attend with intent. If you don't do that, you're wasting your money and everyone else's time. Don't assume anything. Have a plan, but shed your expectations. I once met a developer mid-conference. We were getting along just fine. Then, when I mentioned that I was a composer, he audibly groaned. He was like, "Oh, another one?" You could see the light leave his eyes as he mentally exited the conversation. Now, he was an asshole, but the world's full of them. So be prepared, be resilient. Read books on people skills, I promise you. That is never time wasted. If you get nothing else from this video, let that be the one thing you do. Work on your people skills. So, let's wrap it up. Your results are directly tied to what you're willing to put in. Not what you want, not what you feel you deserve, not what your mum tells you you should be getting, what you actually do. You've probably heard this before. If not, luck is where hard work meets opportunity. The harder you work, the more opportunities you're going to invite. I entirely reject notions of impossible goals. Those who succeeded are not inherently more gifted. They simply invest the hours and endure the sacrifices. If you want this, a career in creativity, that's brilliant. You've got to do the same. Questions? Thoughts? Send me an email or write me below. I do get back to everyone, not always quickly, but I do. Thanks.